Hello, this is Diane Turchetta from the Federal Highway Administration. I'd like to talk to you today about the Alternative Fuels Corridor Program. I'd like to discuss the background of the program, the current implementation, and where we may go in the future with the program. Under Section 1413 of the Fixing America's Surface Transportation Act, otherwise known as the FAST Act, passed on December 2015, the U.S. Department of Transportation was required to designate national corridors for electric vehicle charging, hydrogen, propane, and natural gas fueling infrastructure. The natural gas included both compressed natural gas and liquefied natural gas. The Act also directed DOT to solicit nominations from state and local officials. No funding was authorized for this program. The criteria for each fuel was developed in consultation with other federal agencies, primarily the Department of Energy and Industry. We'll discuss the criteria later in the presentation. We also had to develop a system for how to classify or categorize the nominations. As nominations were received and analyzed, they fell into one of two categories. One being corridor or signage ready, meaning that all the criteria is met for a specific fuel type and that the highway signage could be installed. Or two, corridor or signage pending, meaning that there were gaps in the corridor where infrastructure had to be installed in order to meet the criteria. A little bit of information on the benefits of a national system. First of all, a national alternative fuel corridor system allows for intercity, regional, and national travel using clean burning fuels. Metropolitan areas have largely built out a lot of their alternative fuel infrastructure, especially electric vehicle infrastructure. The corridor program allows drivers of alternative fuel vehicles to get from one metropolitan area to the other. It also directly addresses the range anxiety, knowing that if you're on an alternative fuel designated corridor, you can count that there will be a station every so many miles depending on the type of fuel you're traveling on. It also integrates nicely in the transportation planning process. There are various regulations and directives for transportation planning, and this program fits nicely into those in terms of the development of state and local transportation plans and also state freight plans. And most importantly, at least to me, is that the corridor program accelerates public interest and awareness of the availability of alternative fuels and vehicles. A little bit about our first two rounds, that would be FY 16 and 17, as we refer to as rounds 1 and 2 of the designations. Together, there were 58 nominations. It included portions or segments of 84 interstates, along with 43 U.S. highways and state roads. The program to date comprises 44 states plus the District of Columbia and covers over 100,000 miles of the national highway system. And there's some double counting in there because that 100,000 miles is all fuels combined. A little bit on the criteria now that I referred to earlier. This slide shows the criteria for each fuel that was included in the FAST Act. I'm not going to go by fuel and read the criteria. However, there are two red circles on the slide, one on DC fast charging and one on hydrogen. There were two differences in our round 2 criteria versus round 1. In round 1, we included both level 2 chargers and DC fast chargers for electric vehicle corridors. In round 2, we only chose DC fast chargers for designation. So there were no level 2 sites counted in round 2 of the designations. Round 2 also included non-road hydrogen stations. These hydrogen stations must meet light-duty vehicle fueling requirements and must meet all the other criteria listed there, including being publicly accessible. We are quickly moving into the time of year where we'll be sending out a request for nomination for our FY28 round of designations. We anticipate issuing round 3 in early October. Just as last year, the request will go through our Federal Highway Division offices, who in turn pass those along to their metropolitan planning organizations and their state DOTs. The nominations will be due at the end of January 2019. And just as last year, designations will be made in the spring of 2019. There's no anticipated change in designation criteria for round 3. There will be some changes in how you submit your shape files, and this is just to make it easier for you all in terms of analyzing the shape files and for us when we receive them on this end. Another aspect of the program is highway signage. As I mentioned earlier, a designated corridor that's designated as corridor ready can receive highway signage. A memo was issued by Federal Highway in December 2016 providing direction to state DOTs on the specifics of highway signage for the Alternative Fuel Corridors program in accordance with the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, or otherwise known as the MUTCD. The first 2 states to install signage were Minnesota on I-94 and South Carolina on I-26. On our Alternative Fuels website, you will find a list of frequently asked questions. A lot of those questions pertain to signage. I would encourage you all to look there for your specific questions on signage. And if you have further questions, please feel free to contact Federal Highway on that, or your state DOT. One of the things we really wanted to accomplish at the outset of this program is to hold some regional alternative fuel convenings. The objective of the convenings is to strengthen the collaboration and coordination among states that share corridors. As we all know, corridors don't stop at state borders. Also, the convenings provide an opportunity for stakeholders and participants to meet their Clean Cities coordinators, who have been an invaluable resource to the Alternative Fuels Corridor program and contributed toward its success to date. The end goal of the convenings is really to assist state and local officials in filling the infrastructure gaps on corridors, and to get them changed from pending to ready corridors, and also to identify new corridors for designation. So how do we do this through the convenings? We take a deep dive into identifying each region's existing barriers and discussing possible solutions related to the installation of alternative fuel infrastructure along highway corridors. We have a series of convenings. To date, we have accomplished 2 of those. The first one is in the Midwest on June 12th in St. Paul, Minnesota. And the second one just last week is September 25th in Charleston, South Carolina. All the information from the convenings, including the final report, can be found on a link from the Alternative Fuel Corridor website. The remainder of the schedule, the last 3 convenings, will occur in 2019. We will hold one in the Rev West states, which stands for the Regional Electric Vehicle Plan for the West. Western states, a number of them have gotten together and signed an MOU to establish electric vehicle corridors, so we plan to help them do that. The 4th will be a convening for the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states in the spring or summer of 2019 on the East Coast location. And lastly, a convening in Texas and surrounding states. Given Texas' size and the number of fuels there, we thought that would be a very good place to have a convening as well. Another topic I'd like to discuss is the relationship between Federal Highway and DOE's National Renewable Energy Laboratory, otherwise known as NREL. As many of you are aware, NREL administers the Alternative Fuels Data Center. It's a comprehensive clearinghouse of information on advanced transportation technologies. Included in the clearinghouse is the Alternative Fueling Station Locator, federal government's official interactive mapping tool to locate alternative fuel stations across the country. Federal Highway and NREL have a memorandum of understanding in place so that NREL technical staff can assist Federal Highway in analyzing corridor nominations to make the designation determinations. Another thing NREL is doing is developing tools for the corridor program. Currently, they're developing a corridor mapping tool that can be embedded on any website and will eventually appear as a tab on the NREL station locator. This slide shows the NREL map on the left. The third tab there is blank, and at some point it will say a corridor tool or corridor mapping tool or explore corridors. And at the right is our alternative fuel corridor website, and it will also be embedded there. The interactive map will allow highway stations and currently designated corridors, ready and pending, to be viewed. The tool will also highlight corridors that can be designated as ready but have not been nominated to date. The tool will be developed in phases. A basic version of the tool will be available for the round 3 nomination process. Future versions of the tool will be more robust with the ability to drop pins on the map to indicate where stations could be installed and being able to show stations at various distances from the highway or corridor. The tool will provide stakeholders with the ability to analyze corridors for the corridor nomination process and will also serve as an analysis tool for citing alternative fuel infrastructure. In terms of the future of the program, Federal Highway anticipates that an annual request for nominations will be released under the Life of the FAST Act, which is through FY 2020. In some way, shape, or form, I would hope that the inclusion of the program will appear in the next Transportation Reauthorization Bill. We want to continue our coordination and collaboration efforts with the Clean Cities Program and NREL. And of course, we'd like to enhance any type of collaboration we have with stakeholders, and especially a reach out to industry, the alternative fuel industry. I'm going to leave you with a slide providing more information. My information is there, my contact information. Also, my 2 colleagues at the Volpe Transportation Center, Mike Scarpino and Stephen Casu, who helped me administer the program, and a few websites. Of course, the Alternative Fuel Corridor website, the memorandum for signing for designated alternative fuel corridors, and the DOE NREL Alternative Fueling Station Locator website. Thank you very much.